Tony Kanaan starts today from his first ever pole position. His mechanics lost the bet and their watches. But will luck be riding with Tony today? As the kart teams come to the streets of Long Beach, who will have luck on their side? Luck was with Gilles de Ferran in Japan last week as he survived a spin from pole to finish second. Luck also rode with Adrian Fernandez when a late race yellow allowed him to win on a few drops of fuel. Greg Moore also had a slice of good fortune as his late race spin saw him salvage fourth place and the series lead. But Michael Andretti's luck has been missing, with time lost in the pits in the opening two races of the year. It's the third round of the FedEx Championship Series. Are you feeling lucky? The sun is shining. It's another beautiful day in California as we prepare for the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Hello and welcome from Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw to our full coverage of the 25th running of this street race classic on a newly revised track. A track that's already seen one or two incidents in the practice and qualifying, and one that's changed since last year.
Great aerial view there, and if you look on the left-hand side of the screen at the end of the start-finish, curving straight, the fastest point of the track, Shoreline Drive, almost 180 miles an hour. They turned sharp right last year, now they turn sharp left, and they go through a twiddly little section there, 3 more corners before they rejoin at a new turn 6. Used to be turn 3, and it's different for the drivers. It's also different for the teams in terms of the setup of these cars.
Tony Kanaan took pole position yesterday, a superb job in qualifying. It's the first time the Brazilian in only his second season has taken pole position, and we've seen some great performances from him in the past. He's still seeking his first win. Behind him is Dario Franchitti. Franchitti held the pole position on Friday, but on Saturday things did not go according to plan. This is what happened on Saturday morning in practice in the car he was due to qualify in the afternoon. Too much damage was done to it. He had to go out in the spare car, and it is the spare car he'll be racing today. So let's take a little bit more of a look now at how they line up for the start of this race. Tony Gordon also running well in the last 2 races on ovals, but the new team has not done much testing on road courses, and therefore he starts a bit further down on this occasion. He starts in 21st place, but don't count Gordon out. He's always an aggressive racer on the streets.
Yeah, he's the only driver to be banned from a race. He was disqualified from here 5 years ago. Here's the other onboard camera, Cristiano D'Amata, the best of the Toyota runners this weekend. He starts in 16th for Arciero Wells Racing. They're based just down the road here in Southern California.
So Cristiano D'Amata then, winner in the Indy Lights race here last year, so he knows this place well, although this is the new section now, Jeremy. This is where we've seen quite a lot of incident, that roundabout round the fountain.
Yeah, on the left there was a new aquarium building, which really is a fantastic new tourist attraction here. On the right was the parking garage for that, the multi-storey car park there, and then it brings them back through a very difficult off-camber corner back onto the old section of the track, and then behind the convention centre here along Seaside Way.
It's a 1.8-mile track. It's an 85 lap race. Tony Kanaan then the pole sitter, and quite a wide pit window. We're expecting 2 stops today. If there are a lot of yellow flag laps, it's possible to do it on just 1 stop, but that does look at being a lot of accidents, and it is possible, of course. Very tight track.
And it's also pretty hard on fuel consumption here. The cars have to accelerate out of that slow hairpin up the way through the gears to 180 miles an hour. That uses up a lot of fuel. Fuel consumption is going to be a factor this afternoon.
Here we go then. Are we ready for the start of this 85 lap race?
Position 2 on the map.
Listening to some radio communication, and here we go then, the start of the Long Beach Grand Prix underway, and Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti get underway, but there's quite a lot of delay behind. Are they out of the hairpin cleanly? Yes, they are, and this is the battle down to the first corner. Brian Herter's on the inside. Herter's gone for the lead into turn 1. Great move from Brian Herter. Kanaan's back to second. Dario Franchitti is squeezed back to third, and Max Papis in 4th place. But Brian Herter, who led much of the race here last year, has got in front.
Brilliant move by Brian Herter. There was a fast-paced start there, Tony Kanaan. He wanted to get the field spread out, but Herter was on the ball. He was right tucked in behind Tony Kanaan, took full advantage, brake deep into the first corner. Great move. Ooh, you see Dario Franchitti sideways there.
Yeah, Franchitti had it all crossed up in 3rd place, kept it off the wall. He's brushed the wall wall a few times in qualifying and in the practice sessions this weekend, and he's got to keep it off the walls in the race if he's to survive 85 laps of this demanding track. But it's Brian Herter who leads from Tony Kanaan as they'll come round this time to complete the first lap. Look how close Kanaan is to the back of Brian Herter's car. Franchitti in third, then Max Papis, and then watch out for Juan Montoya in the Ganassi car. The man who's replaced Alex Zanardi with Ganassi. Very aggressive. Oh, and in trouble. That's one of the four sides. It's Carpentier. Patrick Carpentier. What does this man need to do to get some luck? He was the first retirement in Japan, and he's the first in trouble here in Long Beach.
And what a great aggressive first lap there from Brian Hurt. He's not known for his aggression, perhaps. Last year, of course, he was beaten here by Alex Zanardi, but a brilliant move on the first lap. And, you know, it's tough to pass on this track. It's very sinuous here through the new section. We're now back onto the old section there from a different direction, and they turn right there at the new turn 7. There's through this turn 8 and 8A. Flat out kinks to the left and then the right onto Seaside Way, and they're up to about 175 miles an hour before they're hard on the brakes again. Tony Kanaan down the inside!
Yeah, he's gone through. Kanaan retakes the lead. Fantastic stuff. Kanaan just judging it to perfection. Good speed down the straight. Good stability under braking. Past the yellow flags where the safety car has been sorting out Patrick Carpentier at the hairpin. But Kanaan's got back in front, and now they're already beginning to open up a little bit of an advantage over Brian Herter. This is tremendous racing in the opening lap. We half expected there to be many incidents on the first lap, and particularly here at turn number 1, but they all made it through cleanly, and they've all survived so far except for that little incident involving Carpentier. This has been a remarkably clean opening stint to the race, and yet we've seen two great overtaking manoeuvres.
Spectacular start of this race, and what a great move that was by Tony Kanaan. There goes Franchitti
down the inside. He tries to go through. Has he made it? Herter's got the inside. Yes. Franchitti's got through. That was a brave piece of overtaking as well. These drivers were all talking about the lack of overtaking opportunities on this racetrack in the press conference yesterday. Well, they've all just proved us wrong. Each of them has now overtaken.
Stuff, I love it. There is Dario Franchitti now up into second place, and Herter clearly is struggling though. He's falling back from Dario Franchitti, and he is definitely, I would say, off the pace here at the moment. Franchitti pulled away significantly there, just in those last two corners, but Herter does stay out on the racetrack. The car obviously is under braking. He's having problems now, though it wasn't the case on the first lap, but since then he's not able to get on the brakes as late as those other two.
Behind the lead pair then of Kanaan and Franchitti is Brian Herter, Max Papis, and this man, Juan Montoya. He lies in 5th position. He was on the front row on Friday after the first qualifying session. He overdrove the car in qualifying yesterday. We saw lots of opposite lock and exciting driving, but it was too much, and he wasn't as fast in that second session. He qualified in 5th place, and that is the position he's holding. But look, he's right behind the car of Max Papis and looking for an opportunity to go past the Italian, who now drives, of course, for Team Rahal. But Papo, and then Hearn has picked up an advertising banner. Look at that. Richie Hearn can't see where he's going now.
Well, appropriately, at least it is a Toyota banner. A Toyota engine on the car this year. He has got rid of that banner now, so would have been lucky to be able to see where he's going. But there are banners on the side of the racetrack all the way around here, and that'll have cost poor Richie Hearn a lot of time, but clearly just slid a little bit wide on one of those corners.
Unfortunately, yes, we just heard a little bit of radio communication. I think he's managed to tell the pits that he's got a clear view. There is the view of Richie Hearn from the camera looking straight back to the driver's helmet. Lovely view. This is up through the last corner. Coming to the hairpin now. Watch how much lock he applies. Really cranks on the lock and then winds off the lock as he accelerates. And they're so fast accelerating up this straight. Now here's a replay. What happened? Tarso Marquez got past Robbie Gordon. Gordon hit the tyres and that released the banner. And of course then Richie Hearn was next along to pick up the Toyota banner. But a good move there from Marquez. That was for position, I believe. Marquez is currently in 19th position. So back on board with Richie Hearn. He's got through that little problem, and now he can concentrate on trying to pick off some places himself.
A bad luck there for Richie Hearn. Incidentally, Patrick Carpentier, we saw, had a problem early on. He is back into the race. He is a lap down, 27th and last.
Look at these two up front. Identical machinery, different teams. They both run with the Reynard chassis. They have the Honda engine, which is renowned for its tractability. That means its drivability. It's excellent on this tight street course with good power at low revs. And those two are pulling away from Brian Herter in third. Juan Montoya has got past Max Papis. Montoya fourth, Papis fifth. Fernandez is now in 6th place with De Ferran behind them in 7th. And then a group of cars which includes the championship leader, Greg Moore.
And that's interesting. Both Team Rahal cars losing ground in the early stages of this race. I wonder whether they're being a little bit more conservative, perhaps, than some of these other teams in terms of fuel consumption. We talked about at the top of the show, some of these guys think that fuel consumption is very, very marginal, particularly if there are not many yellows. If there are a lot of yellows, of course, that'll negate that problem, and some teams may even gamble on trying to go the distance on one fuel stop. But certainly it's a major factor, and I think that is what we're seeing here, is why Herta and Papis both losing a little bit of ground in the early stages.
Yes, Papis definitely dropping back. Juan Montoya, we didn't see the passing manoeuvre, but he's made a good, clean passing manoeuvre in the early stages of this race. And Juan Montoya now into 4th place. 5th place, there's the car in picture, is Max Papis, the Miller Lite car. The car formerly driven for so many years by Bobby Rahal, but now the Italian is behind the wheel. Adrian Fernandez right behind him, the car that took victory in Motegi. Well, in fact, not the car, but the driver. This is a different car this weekend. That green and red machine is the Swift chassis, the car that's built here in California, as opposed to the Reynard chassis that he's driven in the first 2 races of the season. The 1998 Reynard chassis that he took to Homestead, and the 1997 car, in fact, he looked up behind Papis there, that he took to Motegi and won on the oval last week. Great battle between these two. Papis obviously, as you said, Jeremy, struggling a little bit for pace, and Fernandez looking for a way to overtake. Brian Herta stays in 3rd place with Montoya in a competitive 4th position, and now chasing after Brian Herta. Papis is struggling at the head of this little group that you're watching now. We ride on board with Gilles de Ferran, the camera just placed in behind the front wing of Gilles de Ferran's car. There's Papis, then Fernandez, and then Gilles de Ferran. In fact, Fernandez has just lost a little bit of ground. There's a move. Looks like Michael Andretti might have been making a move behind that. Difficult to spot it. Or it could have been Christian Fittipaldi, actually. Fittipaldi is ahead of Andretti. Fittipaldi lies in 11th, and I think that was Fittipaldi trying to get past Paul Tracy to move into 10th. And we'll have a see in a moment if he managed to make it through. But there, Max Papis started in 4th place, has dropped away a little bit in terms of pace.
Yeah, he's dropped back a good second a lap now. From ahead of him is Juan Montoya, who is right behind Papis' teammate, Brian Herta. And here we are, they're back to the race leader, Tony Kanaan, around the hairpin one more time. This will be 10 laps in the books, and there right behind him still, Dario Franchitti.
These two absolutely together. It's the first time in his career that Tony Kanaan has led, certainly for a number of laps. It's a great performance so far, but very, very early days in this race. And Franchitti perhaps just happy to shadow Kanaan at the moment. Remember, Franchitti has been in this situation before, and he has won races. He knows what it needs. He had a great race last year in Houston in the wet, where he battled with Zanardi and won on that occasion. He battled with Zanardi in Surfers Paradise in a similar situation and lost on that occasion. Franchitti knows what it needs, but Kanaan is a very, very tough competitor. And with a chance of victory here today, well, he's going to be very focused on doing everything absolutely right. And these two have opened quite a healthy margin over Brian Herta in 3rd place.
They pulled away more than 4 seconds now from the 3rd place car off Brian Herta. The gap, however, the last 5 laps has stabilised. They're all doing the same sort of lap times, 1 minute 3.6, so that's a couple and a half seconds away from Tony Kanaan's whole qualifying time, but still a pretty good pace in the early stages of this race.
So, is Franchitti just playing a waiting game now? If we expect 2 pit stops, the pits could be where this race is decided in many ways, and certainly the drivers will look at the pit stops as an opportunity to pass, and we're not due for any pit stops for a little while yet. But bear in mind, behind Brian Herta in 3rd, Juan Montoya is still pushing very hard, less than 7/10 of a second as they've just got across the line. And Max Papis, Adrian Fernandez still holding on to 6th position. Now then, let's take this opportunity to go back to one of the drivers a little further down the field. We saw him earlier in the race getting into trouble with an advertising banner. He's in 24th place. It's Richie Hearn. Now, we have the onboard camera with Richie, but we also have some telemetry for you to enjoy. And there you can see, first of all, the speed, miles per hour, listed clearly at the bottom. And you can see just how far one of these champ cars can accelerate with its 2.65-litre turbocharged engine, pumping out some 800 horsepower. Just watch the speed of increase once he gets onto the straight. Just coming out to the straight section now, building up the speed. Look at this. very quickly up through the gears. 150 mark is crossed, and they're getting up to 180 miles an hour as they come up to the braking area for turn number 9. And Richie Hearn there, just tucked in behind the yellow car of Gualter Sales, who makes a return to the series this weekend. Up front, Tony Kanaan leads, and already they're coming up to lap some traffic. You can see a slower car not far ahead of Tony Kanaan. So interesting to see there's somebody already in their sights. It's Luis Garcia Jr.
Yeah, he has had a lot of mechanical problems this weekend as Luis Garcia Jr., so really doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of track time, but also made a couple of mistakes. So he is off the pace. That is a good friend of his, Tony Kanaan, behind him. With a bit of luck, Lewis will be looking in his mirrors. He will see Tony Kanaan there, and he will move out of the way, won't he? It's also difficult to get out of the way there in that part of the track. Good move there by Garcia. Moves that wide. Tony Kanaan down the inside. That's the best he could do in that sort of situation. Hats off to Luis Garcia.
And it looks as though Franchitti should be able to get past him. You can see the parity in engine performance. Interesting this though, Jeremy. Luis Garcia with the Ford Cosworth engine in the back of his machine and accelerating off that hairpin and down the straight. Really nothing to choose between them. And that, I think, is problems here for Robbie Gordon. Gordon has gone down an escape lane and obviously losing a great deal of time here. That's a shame. Robbie Gordon, who's had a bit of a tough weekend, performed brilliantly in Motegi last week, and were it not for a few problems at the end of the race, could have had a tremendous result. He spins it, and it looks as though he's trying to get back down the escape road and rejoin the track. Nice piece of control there from Robbie Gordon, but this is losing him hours and hours of track time, effectively. He struggles to get back onto the track. Here we are, rejoins the field. That's about where Gualter Sales is. Now then, here's a battle going on. This is for third place. You're on board, Juan Montoya, and he's trying to get past Brian Herta. He is indeed trying very hard indeed, and Montoya really looking strong here. That is the slower car again of Luis Garcia. Did he hold up Brian Herta a little bit? Well, not enough, I think, for Juan Montoya. There's not much between us. There's only about 20 feet between these two cars. It's foreshortened by this camera angle, this wide angle on the top of Juan Montoya's roll bar. But there goes Herta down to the inside of Luis Garcia, and Montoya is following him through. Jolly good. Good move again by Luis Garcia, stays out of the way. Yeah, sensibly done. They make it through safely, and Tony Kanaan leads by 2.7 seconds from Dario Franchitti. Completed in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach here in California. Pac West have just seen problems for both of their cars, but they are rejoining. Maurizio Gugelmin and Marc Blundell have just both been into the pits after contact out on track, not with each other, in separate incidents, I think, but both in trouble on the same lap. It means they've come into the pits and they've had a fuel stop and they've put new tyres on, and that means they're going to be on a different strategy to everyone else. You never know, that might work to their favour later in the race. It just depends how things go, but Gugelmin's going pretty slowly there. There are the two Pac West cars. They've come out absolutely together on the racetrack, and now they're having their own private battle for position, but they're a long way down the field, having stopped already. Meanwhile, up front, let me tell you that Tony Kanaan still controlling this race as Dario Franchitti continues to hound him. You've got, in this picture, by the way, you've got Gualter Sales joining in this battle between the two Pac West cars, who've gone out on cold tyres. And of course, Marc Blundell now having a little look down the inside of Maurizio Gugelmin. I don't think Gugelmin's going to fight the position. It looks as though Gugelmin may still be struggling with the handling of his car. I think contact that was made between him and another car. Oh, and Garcia stopped at the hairpin now. Oh, I hope he can get it going. I hope we don't have to have a yellow flag for such a silly incident. But it does look to me as though the engine is stalled now. Can they get that car out of the way without bringing out the yellow flags? They might be able to. The safety crew is there. And I know the chief steward very keen to try and avoid bringing out the full course yellow if possible.
They will pull that car right back out of the way here at the hairpin. That's a good move by the kart safety team. And then they can pull it back, and it gives them enough room. They can see the cars coming towards them on the racetrack. And if they deem it safe, they will try to push Luis Garcia and get him going again. If not, they'll just pull him behind the wall.
Leaders have just gone through. There are the two battling for third. Brian Herta in the Shell car, the black machine, and Juan Montoya. Again, we ride on board with Montoya. A star last week in Motegi when he battled hard with Adrian Fernandez for the lead of the race, only to run out of fuel. And that apparently was a mistake from the pits crew. They thought there was more fuel in the car than there really was. And apparently Ganassi not very happy about the mistakes that have been made this year. Apparently there were some mistakes also made at at Homestead, and they're desperate to try and get this thing back on track. The champions the last 3 years, and interestingly, the winners here the last 3 years. Zanardi winning the last 2 races here at Long Beach, and Jimmy Vasser winning 3 years ago, 1996, and going on to be champion. On board with Gilles de Ferran. We were just talking about tyres, Jeremy, but of course Gilles de Ferran is on the Goodyear tyre.
He is indeed, and the car ahead of him, Max Papis there on Firestone. It's a good battle between these two, and Gilles, I think he probably feels he's a little bit quicker than Max Papis, but he's not quite able to make a move on him, and at the same time he has to keep a very close eye on his mirrors, because there is Christian Fittipaldi right behind him. Then it's Greg Moore and Jimmy Vasser and Paul Tracy, and also Michael Andretti and PJ Jones also right in there as well. A great battle for the minor placings here. That's for 6th place, which is Papis, and back from there.
So as that battle rages, has Gilles de Ferran got a better run out of the hairpin this time? Doesn't look like it. Looks like a fairly low downforce setup for Papis, which gives him good straight line speed. And you can see Gilles de Ferran then doesn't get close enough to challenge under braking. And it is a compromised track, this one. Some cars are running very low downforce, and oh dear, a spin for Cristiano De Mata in number 25 car. The Arciero Wells machine. Cristiano De Mata, rookie this season, moved up from Indy Lights. The championship he won last season, and it does look as though the engine's gone. He needs a push start. Yeah, frustration there for Cristiano De Mata. That's a shame. He was running very, very well indeed. He was in 15th place. Look at Gilles de Ferran there, sideways there on the power, coming out of turn 7 there. Can Christian Fittipaldi get a run? I don't know. But we're on board here. You can see the yellow flags there from one of the corner workers. And here is his train of cars. Papis at the tail of it, and down the inside there. Castro Neves was looking at the inside of Cristiano De Mata, and De Mata tried to move across, got on the brakes a little bit too late, and around she goes. Yeah, so that was how it happened for Cristiano De Mata. As that battle rages, as you say, behind Max Papis, I think they're all bottled up behind him, and that low downforce setup, they've really got the wings pretty flat on that car. He's been setting the fastest speeds across the start-finish line regularly this weekend, and that's evidence of the low downforce setup that they've run. He's been seeing speeds of 167 miles an hour across the start-finish line, whereas most of the others have only been just over 160 miles an hour. But look how slow Papis is in the corners. That low downforce setup means the car's sliding all over the place in this section. But at the moment, he's keeping these other cars behind. Tony Kanaan is still race leader here after 20 laps. And Shigeaki Hattori has gone all wrong again. He went off this morning, did quite a lot of damage to the car. The Bettenhausen team had a lot of work to do to repair it. But let me tell you, things are going on here. Franchitti has dropped back in 2nd place. He's still in 2nd place, but he's a long way behind Tony Kanaan all of a sudden. Franchitti could have a problem. Meanwhile, Juan Montoya, we're riding with him now. He's moved up into 3rd position. And in fact, he's less than 2 seconds behind Franchitti. You can see Franchitti ahead, and for some reason, Franchitti has lost a huge amount of time in the last few laps, and now he's got a problem with Juan Montoya bearing down on him. But the yellow are down there at that new section. That's where Shigeaki Hattori has gone off. Still only a local yellow for the moment. We haven't seen a full course yellow yet. Oh, I changed my mind because the officials have changed their mind. It has gone full course yellow, and Montoya backing off a little bit, and we could now see a rush for the pit lane. How many laps have we had? We've had 23 laps of the race so far, and that is, well, enough to see the first round of pit stop. Shigeaki Hattori still stuck in the tyres. He's asking for a push, but how can anyone push him when the cars are coming past? You can see how little space there is. They need a bit more room, but the leaders are in the pit lane. Yes, there is. We can look out of our booth, and Tony Kanaan pulls down the pit lane. Steve Reagan's crew will be waiting. Here we are in the McDonald's pit. It's the drive-through crew, as they're called nowadays, with the McDonald's sponsorship. Let's listen in on the radio. Franchitti in, vital stop, but he's lost a lot of time these last few laps. They're shaking their head. He's not happy. Are they going to make any wing changes? Look for any adjustments to the front wing. That would indicate a handling problem. Perhaps it was just the tyres that went off. He comes out just ahead of Montoya. Oh, that was close between Franchitti and Montoya. But I think that Franchitti just got the nod on the decision. And they head down pit lane at the speed limit of 60 miles per hour as the other leaders, all of them, into the pits at the same time. Great stuff here, mass pit stops here. This pit lane is awfully narrow. You can see that Gilles de Ferran had to wait for those cars to pull in front of him before he could get back out into the racetrack. He now is on to the outside of the pit lane. There we are with Michael Andretti also getting ready to rejoin. Tucked in behind, that was Jimmy Vasser. Yeah, so close down there in the pit lane. scary situation when so many front runners come in. That was one of the four side guards almost pulling into Michael Andretti there, and with all the mechanics around as well, it's scary business down there for everyone involved in the pit crews. But it looks as though they've all stopped cleanly, and it was a good stop for Tony Kanaan, controlling this race. And I wonder whether Dario Franchitti is going to be able to chase him once the green comes out again. The pace car light is out. They're going to go green next time around as the mess has been cleared up and all the major pit stops have been made. The first round, that is, of pit stops. There'll be another round of pit stops. Interestingly, we just heard Chip Ganassi come on the radio to Juan Montoya saying, only 25 laps completed, only a third distance, it's a long way to go. They're reining Montoya in. They're trying to keep him under control because they're aware that he gets a little bit carried away. They're just trying to say, hang on, wait, you're in a great position. Don't do anything silly. Here we go. Green flag comes out and Tony Kanaan sets off in the lead once again. He's led all of the laps here so far today from pole position. A great performance so far, but what about Franchitti? He suffered in the last part of that first stint, really struggled for pace, and now can he try and keep it together under pressure from Juan Montoya. Mark Blundell is up there, but he's not in position. Blundell's car, unfortunately, not as far up as it looks. He's way down the order, a lap down. He's in 19th position. So look behind Blundell's car to the other front runners. In fact, quite a few places behind.
There is Scott Pruitt and Tazo Marquez, who'd already been involved in something. He lost a couple of laps, didn't he? He was 2 laps down at that restart, tangling there with Scott Pruitt. That's a shame. That will, I'm sure, bring out the caution flags one more time. That car's not going to be moved in a hurry. You can see that right front wheel well adrift, and Tazo Marquez climbs out. And frustration there for the young Brazilian. It's a shame. He's been the team has been very, very impressed with him. Here's a replay. There is Scott Pruitt diving down the inside of Helio Castro Neves, and Marquez apparently trying to follow him through. I don't really see the point in that. Marquez is 2 laps down. He's out of contention for the win. And here's another angle. There is Marquez actually trying to keep out of the way initially, but locks up his brakes, hits the back of Scott Pruitt, and then also involves Helio Castro Neves. So on the dirty part of the track there, Tazo Marquez showing his inexperience, I would suggest. He was trying to keep out of the way, I believe, but it is very dirty down that inside line, and if you're going to do that, you've got to brake really, really early, and he just braked early, not enough.
That's right. Well, it brings the yellows out again, so another breather as Kanaan still is our leader. With 28 laps in the books, 57 laps still to go, and they're the top 6. Kanaan, Franchitti, Montoya, followed by Herta, Fernandez and De Ferran. This track has seen a great deal of motorsport over the years. It's become a classic event on the calendar. Let's take a little look back over some of the 25 years. It all began in September of 1975 when the sleepy streets of Long Beach came alive to the sound of racing engines. That first race was won by a British driver, Brian Redman. It was a Formula 5000 race, but Formula 1 cars soon came here, 1976, all the way through to 1983, when the last Grand Prix in Long Beach was won by John Watson. In 1984, it became a race for the championship cars. They followed in the footsteps of the Grand Prix cars and enjoyed the tremendous support of the Californian crowds. Mario Andretti was the winner of that first race, and for the Andretti family, there's been a good degree of success, but no more successful than Al Unser Jr., who has won on 6 occasions around Long Beach. And in all those years, Toyota has maintained its link as title sponsor of the race.
And Al Unser Jr. is not racing this weekend, but he is here. There's a list of the former winners here in the Formula 1 days, and look at that pretty illustrious list. Clay Regazzoni, of course, involved in a terrible accident here later that ended his career. Mario Andretti, Carlos Reutemann, the great Argentinian, now in political career in Argentina, but a tremendous list of drivers. And here we are again in the champ cars. Mario Andretti, a 3-time winner here. Al Unser Jr., 6 times a winner here, including 4 in a row. And in fact, in 92, he was on course to win again until he was nicked from behind by Danny Sullivan, his teammate that year. And Unser fell back, and Sullivan went on to win that race, and Al Jr. was not very happy on that occasion.
He is here this weekend, as you mentioned, Jeremy, walking around with a cast on his lower left leg. and telling us that he's going to be testing fairly soon.
That's right. I saw him actually just before the start of the race, and he said he reckoned he could probably drive this weekend, but the doctor said no, Al, it's not a very good idea. He has a heavy cast on his right leg. He is, however, going to test a week on Monday at the Gateway International Raceway track near St. Louis, and he is planning to be back in the cockpit for the next race at Nazareth Speedway.
Brave stuff from Al Unser Jr. We've seen the man replacing him, Tarso Marquez, going out of this race already, but well, that's just the way it goes sometimes, I suppose. Unfortunate for Marquez.
Indeed, and Castro Neves, incidentally, he was well sideways down that incident, but he did keep going. He's still in the race 15th.
Well, we're just talking about Al Unser Jr. and the fact that he took those 6 wins here in Long Beach, and we actually had a chance to catch up with him on camera earlier on today and to see exactly what Al Unser Jr. has to say about the injuries and his prospects for coming back soon.
We feel real good. I mean, the ankle's way ahead in its rehab, and so I was able to get in the car yesterday just at the truck there, and I can work the throttle, so everything's looking really good.
So you're anticipating to come back at Nazareth? Is that still the plan?
Most definitely. We'll be testing in St. Louis a week from tomorrow, and then the Nazareth races we'll be at.
But any concern? I mean, you're not able to get around on your own to walk, but yet you can drive. Is it easier than walking?
Driving's easier than walking for sure. Yeah, we can crutch up to the car and then crawl right in it.
Lovely line, that. Driving is easier than walking. Born to drive, perhaps, Al Unser Jr. from a racing family, of course. His father, an extremely successful champ car driver, and just look at that record. Absolutely, he has the most starts of the current drivers, well, generally current drivers in the champ car field. Michael Andretti is second behind him, and he loves this place, Al Unser Jr. In fact, if you just look on the right-hand side of the screen there, you can see on the Civic Centre there, the big mural of a whale drawing there, which is done by the noted artist Wyland. But in actual fact, little Al had his own little hand in that painting as well. A portion of it was painted by little Al Unser Jr. Well, all good fun and games. Meanwhile, back with the leaders, Kanaan has reported a couple of things. One, that the clutch pedal is feeling a little bit soft on his car, but it's no great concern. Also, he's concerned about tyre wear, and I wonder if that was the problem for Franchitti, who dropped back so dramatically at the end of that first stint. Tyre wear is a problem here, and towards the end of the stint, the grip really going away. If it goes away for everybody, then that's one thing, but perhaps some cars are better set up, will look after their tyres better than others. The last 5 laps of that first stint before those pit stops, Dario Franchitti lost 1 second per lap to Tony Kanaan. Kanaan's pace dropped off. He had been running mid 1 minute 3s, and at the end of the stint he was running 1 minute 5, so he fell off probably a second and a half, but Dario fell off a second more than that. Here we go, green flag. Yes, racing again as we go on to lap number 31. Tony Kanaan crosses the line ahead of Franchitti and Montoya looks racy. He looks as though he might have a little run at Franchitti down into turn 1. Franchitti is going to the outside, Montoya goes for the inside line, and Montoya goes through, or does he? Slides it, but he keeps it under control, and Juan Montoya, good move up into second place. I'm surprised Franchitti didn't try and defend that a little bit more, but he didn't. The opportunity was presented to Montoya, and Montoya went for it. No stopping him. So now we have 3 Honda-powered cars controlling this race. Herta back in 4th, Fernandez 5th, and Gilles de Ferret in 6th place.
Great move there by Juan Montoya, cleanly down the inside there, Dario Franchitti. He saw alongside him Juan Montoya, no point in turning in that situation. He has no alternative but to tuck in behind and wait and hope that he can have an opportunity himself later on.
Well, Montoya now has a sense of taking the lead of this race, of course. I should imagine that Ganassi is saying, calm down, Juan, calm down. They are trying to rein him in, as I mentioned earlier. The team has a feeling that this guy is a real star, and from what we've all seen so far, I think we can confirm that. But he hasn't much experience of these longer distance races. Formula 3000, he won the championship last year. The races are reasonably long, but they don't involve pit stops and strategy to quite the same extent as a champ car race. Montoya now running in 2nd place. Now, looking at Marc Blundell, who is a lap down, remember, he runs in 18th position, running with the Reynard chassis, Mercedes Ilmor power, and on Firestone tyres. Mercedes have had a bit of a disappointing weekend, but we have got a chance to look at some of the telemetry from that car and again get an idea of the speeds involved in driving a champ car around this Long Beach circuit.
And the rate of acceleration really is absolutely amazing in these cars, as well as the rate of deceleration. The braking forces are incredible. I've been lucky enough to drive a couple of these cars on a couple of occasions, and I do a little bit of racing myself. Nothing too outrageous, nothing like these guys, that's for sure. I'll tell you what, it is an eye-opener driving these things.
Watch the speed as we come out of the hairpin. Well, in fact, we lose the graphic there because the acceleration out of that hairpin is just astonishing. We were watching that in some of the practice sessions. Meanwhile, back with Juan Montoya, who now chases after Tony Kanaan for the race lead. We've got two hungry youngsters up front. Neither, of course, have ever won a race in this championship, and they're being followed by a man who's won several races now. Dario Franchitti, always strong on the street tracks and just biding his time and not doing anything silly at this point. Montoya really brushing up against the walls and pushing very hard indeed. Just had a report that Luis Garcia is off again. Hopefully, oh, look at Montoya. Wow, he really got that thing crossed up. We've seen that a lot in practice and in qualifying. Great car control from this young man. But he's got to be a little wary. It's so easy to just snick a wall and end your race.
Yeah, and you don't want to push too hard too soon on these cars. They don't like being pushed too hard too soon. They like to play themselves in, just like the drivers do in many ways. And if you push too hard too early in the stint, you get that car sliding, you get those tires a little bit too hot too soon. They don't like it. Oh, there is Alex Barron in the Eagle Toyota. That is a shame. He was running very well indeed. He was in 13th position. Turned out to be unlucky for Alex Barron, a local driver from Southern California. 2 years ago, this guy was driving karts. Now he's in kart, as in championship cars, and a shame. He was running very, very well for that locally based team. See him shaking his head there.
Yeah, well, let's see whether this brings out the full course yellow again. 34 laps completed, 51 laps still to go. And look at the tyres. You can see definite marks on the tyres. Now, whether that's just from the spin...
Yeah, I think that's just a pickup as it spins across to the outside of the road there and picks up that loose rubber that has fallen off the other cars.
Back up with the leaders, and Kanaan, Montoya, Franchitti, all three of them just together now as they head up towards turn number 9. One of the potential overtaking spots, that is where Alex Barron's car is in the tyre barrier, and it is just a local yellow, just a yellow flag being shown at that corner. Look at Montoya, tucked under the rear wing now of Tony Kanaan, and Dario Franchitti deciding it's time to apply some pressure. What a wonderful race we're enjoying here in the sunshine at Long Beach, where some way south of Los Angeles. Long Beach is like a suburb city of Los Angeles, and again Montoya doesn't do anything silly but shadows in behind Tony Kanaan, and the two of them head off onto another lap with Franchitti right in behind them again. This is great stuff, and a real mental challenge as much as anything between these three drivers. Big gap back from these three, by the way. Fourth place is Brian Herter, but he's some 7 seconds behind this battle, and it wasn't that long ago that it went green.
It's true, they're absolutely flying. There are some slower cars between these three and the fourth place car of Brian Herter, but even the lap cars, that includes Mark Blundell and Patrick Carpentier, they're running pretty good lap times, so it's true that they are going faster by about a half a second than the fourth place car. And it's interesting too, the last lap around for Tony Kanaan, 1 minute 4.6, and compare that to the early stages of the race when also on fresh tyres, about a second slower. And Montoya and Dario Franchitti, they're comfortably able to run that pace.
So as Montoya continues in second, Kanaan just covering the middle ground just to make sure Montoya doesn't think about it, but too far back to challenge. We saw Tarso Marquez go out of the race a little while ago. We're hoping to catch up with him in a moment in the pit lane, but let's for the moment just ride with Juan Montoya as he continues this chase. Let's just listen up for a moment. Great on-board pictures. Now then, we have a chance to catch up with the young Brazilian Tarso Marquez, who has replaced Alonso Jr. while Alonso Jr. is out of action. Let's hear from him in pit lane.
Back to pit road. Tarso, we saw you got in trouble in turn 1. What happened? a lot of problems. Unfortunately, we are out of the race. My car was very good, much better than during the practice. And when I tried to overtake Robbie Gordon, he was closing the door too much, and he didn't choose just one line in the straight line. So he pushed me too much inside to the brake, and I brake on the third party. And unfortunately, I missed the brake a little bit, and I pushed through it as well, and I lost my front wheel.
I know, not the way the Tarso Marquez wanted this one to end, Paul.
Well, sad for Tarso Marquez, but he has impressed the Penske team with his performance in these two races that he's run, Motegi last week and here at Norwich.
And there he is talking about trying to outbrake other cars, neglecting to point out that he was in fact 2 laps down to those other cars. Minor detail, and a shame, because he really just needs the miles. That's what the team wanted him to do. Okay, he was 2 laps down, but you can still learn a heck of a lot when you're out on the racetrack. You can't learn a heck of a lot when you're sitting in the pits.
Tony Kanaan still leading. We've got news that Michael Andretti has gradually moved up the order a little bit. He's up to 8th position, by the way. We haven't seen anything of him, really.
Yeah, so he passed Max Papis last time around. A couple of laps before that, Christian Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti's teammate, also passed Max Papis. So Papis back down to 9th position now.
These top 3, Kanaan, Montoya and Franchitti, still a long way ahead of Brian Herta in 4th, Adrian Fernandez in 5th, Gilles de Ferran in 6th, and Christian Fittipaldi 7th, and Michael Andretti in 8th. Behind Andretti, Papis, 10th place for Jimmy Vasser. So Vasser a bit further down than his teammate Juan Montoya. Oh, Kanaan got sideways there, didn't he? Very crossed up, and in fact, there's a slow car to deal with. This is, oh, look at that, great roll. So much to look at. Helio Castroneves got out of the way, but at the same time, Montoya got completely crossed up, accelerating out of turn number 7. Brilliant driving, and again, cat-like reflexes from Montoya, who caught it no problem. But you do wonder how long he can get away with that sort of driving on a street track. At the moment, it's working well for him.
And these leaders have upped the tempo. Last time around, 1 minute 3.4. So they're back up to the pace they were before the caution, the early stages of the race. And just a quick word about Helio Castroneves. You saw them flash past him on the back straight. He is well off the pace now and clearly has a problem. In fact, he's just come into the pits, so I can see him out of our booth here.
Lovely race this at the moment. The pressure being applied by Juan Montoya in 2nd place. He may well be told by Ganassi, don't even try to go for the move unless it's a wide open, because the pit stops that will still come in this race could favour the Ganassi team. A few years ago, Alex Zanardi managed to take the lead in this race from Gilles de Ferran exactly that way, by being faster at the pits. Meanwhile, you look at in the top right-hand corner of your screen, Helio Castroneves back into pit lane in that Lola, which we were talking about a moment ago. But pit stops crucial, and Ganassi have one of the fastest crews down there in the pit lane. That's not to take anything away from the Forsyth crew, the McDonald's crew. They're extremely rapid as well, and it could be a tremendous battle between them. And of course, don't count out Dario Franchitti and Team Green. They've put in some tremendous stops in the last year or so.
This is the future of championship car racing you're watching here on board Juan Montoya. Right ahead of him, Tony Kanaan. And you know also that the Formula One teams are keeping a close watch on this race as well. They all tune into our broadcasts, I think, and they'll be certainly watching with great interest here this afternoon. Juan Montoya, of course, last year was a test driver for Williams Grand Prix Engineering, and he has his sights set on a future in Formula One. I know that Ian Phillips of Jordan Grand Prix has been watching Tony Kanaan for a number of years through Indy Lights, and I think there's going to be a lot of interest in these young men in the years to come.
That's right, but for the moment they're concentrating on their champ car careers, and for these two at least, looking to win their first race. For Dario Franchitti, of course, that mark has already been achieved on several occasions. Franchitti had a brilliant end to the season last year, took 3 victories, with the win, first of all, in Road America, and then going on to 2 more successes with the victory in Vancouver and then in Houston. Franchitti's season was tremendous. He battled with Zanardi, and now he's in position again here today, but this is going to be a very close run thing between these 3. And of course, that's just these 3. What about everybody else? Brian Herta leads the rest of them in the chase. Adrian Fernandez, Gilles de Ferran, Christian Fittipaldi, Michael Andretti. Anybody could still win this race with another pit stop to do, and plenty of action still to come. 41 laps have been completed, 44 laps to go, and we're just under half distance as Carpentier makes his pit stop. A little bit out of sequence with the leaders. 4 tyres and refueling, and he rejoins.
Yeah, he was out of sync. He made the stop early in this race, did not come in under that last four-course caution when everybody else did, so now he needs service. He falls out of 17th place, will go back to 21st and remains 1 lap down. And here are the race leaders again. The pace is picking up. 1 minute 2.898 last time around for Tony Kanaan, and Juan Montoya right there with him in his wheel trace, and is Dario Franchitti in 3rd place. There they go, 1, 2, 3.
Fantastic driving so far from Kanaan, not a hint of a mistake, and let's see whether he can keep it that clean. First time he's led a race, remember, and it's not as if it's an easy lead. Sometimes you get out in front, you get the opportunity to make a break, and then you drive your own race. But in this occasion, Kanaan is having to keep an eye on his mirrors, see what the opposition's up to, drive within himself, but still try to open up an advantage. Tough job for Tony Kanaan, but he's doing a brilliant job of it so far. And Juan Montoya watches from 2nd position. They come out of turn number 7 through 8 and 9 and onto the back straight, up to 185 miles an hour up here. And I know that Montoya was thinking about that a little bit before he got in the car on Friday. I saw him just before the first practice session of the weekend and said, well, you must be looking forward to this. You're always gone well on street circuits in Formula 3000. He said, well, I've never gone this fast on a street track. Let me tell you, 185 miles an hour on a street track. I'm a little bit concerned about that. Interesting to hear that from somebody who has such a great car control, such great confidence. Even he was considering it.
Really, 450 horsepower to 800 plus horsepower. That is quite a leap in power there, and it's tough to cope with. It's so easy. These cars don't have a lot of downforce, really, and it's so easy to get the back end brake loose. And those walls there, they are right at the exit of the corners, right adjacent as you come out under full acceleration.
On board now with Michael Andretti. He's some way behind Christian Fittipaldi, his teammate. The gap between them some 5 seconds. So Michael has quite a lot of work to do to close up to his teammate, and it's 8th position for Michael Andretti at the moment. The man who's had some bad luck in the first 2 races. He stalled it in the pits in Homestead, but then the second stall in Motegi, in fact, wasn't his fault, Jeremy. They had a technical problem in that Newman-Haas Swift that meant that Michael couldn't pull away from it.
That's right. As he dropped the clutch, first gear just disintegrated in that car, so he had to select second and get his act together again and get back into the race. It certainly cost him a potential victory, perhaps.
Yes, he was right up there in the front. There's the man he's chasing, albeit some 5 seconds away. That's the battle between Gilles de Ferran in the Valvoline car, a man who's come so close to winning this race on a number of occasions, but it's never quite come for him. He's running in 6th place with Christian Fittipaldi then in 7th place, and then that gap back to Michael Andretti. No great difference on that last lap. Andretti not lapping really any faster than these 2 ahead of him. Just looking at the laps led and the terms of the chassis in the top left-hand corner of your screen. Reynard's dominating, Honda dominating in laps led amongst the engine manufacturers. And Honda really do seem to have an engine that works well on this street course. Firestone, of course, have led all the laps so far. Leading Goodyear runner is the car we're riding with, Gilles de Ferran in 6th position. The real problem for the engine manufacturers is to get the tractability. We were talking about it a bit earlier, Jeremy, and that hairpin is one of the crucial corners, isn't it?
Certainly is. They're down there. They're way down the rev range there. Just sort of 4,000 revs or so in first gear to come out here. And you've got to have a very, very tractable motor. And I know in the past the Ford Cosworths have said to be very, very good at top-end power. But last year I know Herder was telling me that it's really a handful getting those cars off the corner. There was some talk last year at this track with the Fords of them using traction control, which of course is expressly excluded in championship car racing. They got around that rule. There was some sort of a grey area, but the manufacturers talked it out amongst themselves. Oh no, Tony Kanaan! Tony Kanaan is in the wall. I don't believe it. Our race leader, Tony Kanaan, has crashed. Now, did he get hit?
Nice job, anyway.
Getting words from Steve Horn, words of encouragement there. Nice to hear that, Steve Horn saying nice job anyway. But Tony Kanaan, what a shame. He's driven superbly this afternoon. I said he hadn't made a mistake, and now it looks as though he may have done. We haven't seen the coverage, don't know what happened. Could have been other cars involved. We're just looking down at the tarmac there, which is breaking up a bit through there, Jeremy. A little bit of evidence of the track just beginning to break up a touch. Perhaps that's making the grip a little inconsistent through the left-hander. But Tony Kanan's out, and that means Juan Montoya leads. The Colombian is now leading this race, chased by Dario Franchitti. And what about this man? His first season in Champ Car racing, he's only done 2 races, and they've done very little recent street or road course testing. And what an amazing performance from Montoya. There's team manager for Tony Kanaan, that's Steve Horn. Disappointment for him, but Chip Ganassi, we've seen his face so often in our broadcasts, and he is happy man. Full course yellow, and the pits are open. We could see some pit stops here. 39 laps to go as Tony Kanaan walks disconsolately back towards the pit lane. But the full course yellow has been called. 39 laps to go. Now I wonder if they can. Let's go down to Jan Beekers.
Any idea why he got wide there in that corner?
No idea really, Jan. The car was working fine. He was very comfortable with it. I noticed on the TV the track started to break up a little bit there, so maybe that caught him out, but otherwise I don't know.
Up until that point, were you still very concerned about tire wear?
Not really. The tyres were working perfectly. You know, they were at their limit, but that's what we expect from Firestone, and no, the tyres were fine.
Thanks, Steve. Let's get to Gary.
Boy, I tell you what, Jan,
well, look at that. Montoya's gone out ahead of Franchitti. Great stop from both of them. Good from Montoya, under pressure, having to make a good clean pit stop. And that's a really great job from Montoya. I'll tell you what, there are so many mistakes that can be made.
Reset the fuel.
Being asked by Ganassi to reset the fuel.
Watch for the pace car. The pace car will be out there picking you up somewhere.
And guided by Chip Ganassi all the way here. Watch for the pace car, he says, and that's his next job. It's Montoya Franchitti. What a race this is turning into. Paul Tracy is a retirement as 48 laps have been completed. 37 laps still to go. His teammate Dario Franchitti still lies in second place behind Juan Montoya from Colombia. But it's at the end of the day for the Canadian, and his season not much better than last season so far. Of course, first race he had to sit out. Last weekend in Homestead had a tricky time, didn't really manage to achieve as much as perhaps they'd hoped, and here he's out of the race.
Yeah, he's just incredibly unlucky, as Paul Tracy. The lead mechanic on his car, Chuck Miller, said that when they got back from Japan, when we get to Long Beach, we're going to go to a Midas, which is a parts store, and try and buy ourselves a brake. Well, they're clearly not able to. You know, he was running well last weekend, Paul was, until he had a tyre problem right towards the end of the race. They had a lot of mechanical problems that weekend, and he was running well this weekend, and apparently some sort of contact in the pits, and Paul Tracy out of the race. And there is Tony Sicali there. And here's a replay. We're on board with Juan Montoya.
This is Tony Kanaan going off ahead. Watch the car in front of you here. This was our leader, Tony Kanaan. This is the corner he got it wrong. He goes in, gets it wide, and just basically goes straight into the tyres on the outside. Oh, such disappointment for Tony Kanaan. Juan Montoya couldn't believe his luck as he managed to drive past without being hindered in the least. And there is the sad sight of the McDonald's car by the side of the track, well out of the way now, and the end of the day, the end of a dream, for today at least, for Tony Kanaan. Here we go then, the green flag is going to come out. I wonder why Franchitti let him go a little bit there. That was slightly peculiar. I don't understand that myself, but Franchitti let Montoya get away initially at this restart, and Montoya says thank you very much. Meanwhile, Franchitti maybe has a problem because he now finds himself defending from Brian Herter. In fact, he manages to do that quite cleanly. Herter made a brilliant move at the start of the race into that turn number 1, but didn't get the opportunity that time. Franchitti covered the inside line, so Herter third, Fernandez then in 4th place. Fittipaldi's gone well this afternoon. He's gained a little bit in that last pit stop, so he's now up into 5th place with De Ferran in 6th.
And this is going to be very interesting indeed, these last 33 laps. The track distance is 1.8 miles. These cars they're allocated fuel on the basis of 1.85 miles per gallon. That's how much fuel they have. Every car has exactly the same amount of fuel. They start with 35 gallons on board in the car, the rest of it in the pit side fuel tank, and so they'll start this race with about 85 gallons. They use about 1 gallon per lap. They came into the pits on lap 47, 38 laps to go, 35 gallons of fuel in the tank. We've had, 6 laps of yellow, marginal.
Very, very close on fuel indeed. And of course, strategy will come into this. Will teams believe there's going to be another yellow flag? That's what they'd like to see, but if there isn't, it's going to be very tight at the end. Now then, it's the 3rd time in 4 years that a rookie has led this race. It's a pretty remarkable run. Of course, Helio Castroneves led the race for a while last year, and he was on a different fuel strategy to the others, but it didn't work out for him in the end, but it was an impressive performance in the early days of his career.
He might have done if he hadn't slid down the escape road there in what was turn 6 and now is turn 9. Big mistake by Helio Castroneves, really a rookie mistake, and we haven't seen any sign of any kind of a rookie mistake from Juan Montoya. Very composed, very, very cool, calm drive so far. Look at him spreading out here. Franchitti now got away from Brian Herter. There's a little bit of a gap over Adrian Fernandez, and here is Jimmy Vasser there putting some pressure on the car of Max Papis.
Yes, that's right. Now, I wonder, do you think we'll see the cars stringing out a little bit now, Jeremy, as everybody is on a bit of a fuel economy run? Do you think less likely to see overtaking manoeuvres for a little while?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair comment. I think they've got to be conservative at this stage in the game, try and conserve their fuel and their tyres. Remember, in that first stint of the race, we saw some people's tyres going off fairly substantially towards the end of that first stint. And they've got to keep a close eye. PJ Jones hit from behind by Greg Moore. That was a battle for position.
I think PJ actually went down the inside of Moore and just lost it. As he went down the inside, lost it, and that then tangled Moore up as well. Oh, this could be the yellow flag that everybody's looking for to survive okay on fuel. PJ reckons he's all right, he just needs a push to get going, but of course they can't do that. The safety workers, or the corner workers, what we would call marshals normally, are behind the wall. They're not allowed to help. Look at this, Jeremy, down the inside. You see he went for the pass, lost the back end of the car as he came into turn 1, out into the barrier. Moore was able, in fact, to slip by.
There's still fairly close, so they have to be a little bit conservative. They won't be able to run full rich mixture, I don't think, but even so it'll certainly improve the race situation, I think, for virtually everybody, and I think we could be in for quite a bit of excitement. We see ahead of them of Juan Montoya, the pace car is just going around turn 9 there. Lights are out, we are getting ready for the restart, and I don't think Dario Franchitti this time will let Juan Montoya get quite so much of a lead as he did last time around.
No, I wouldn't think so. He seemed to let him get away a bit last time. Franchitti this time, as you say, accelerating quite hard there just before they turned into the corner. Good restart so far from Montoya, pretty impressive. Remember, he's not used to having to restart races like this from Formula 3000. They don't really have situations much like this, and away they go again. So far, every restart he's handled very well indeed, no mistakes at all, and away they go again. It looks as though he's made enough of a break not to be under challenge as they go into turn number 1. It's Franchitti who's got to watch his mirrors a little bit again as Brian Herter gets away extremely quickly, but Herter can't do anything with it. Fernandez comes through, Michael Andretti slips past Gilles de Ferran. Good move that, and that means Andretti's moved into 6th position, so watch out for Michael. He's still around, hasn't made any mistakes, and has just taken advantage of the restart there to gain 1 position.
Interesting. We've seen a lot of, fair amount of overtaking on this racetrack, and before the race there is Robbie Gordon in the escape road again. This is at turn 1, and there's a sort of a loop around here. He can rejoin at turn 5, between turn 5 and 6, and hopefully he won't do that as the leaders are going past. Now I think most of the leaders have actually gone through. That's good news. But we just, that was a mistake there by Robbie Gordon. I think, back into the race.
He'd also just been into the pits, hadn't he? So I don't know whether he's got some problem, or was he due for a stop then?
Yeah, he probably was. No, he stopped with everybody else on lap 46, but just getting the last few dregs of fuel in there. He was at the back of the pack in any case, and a lap down. Might as well come in and gamble, get the rest of the fuel and go out there. I think he was probably just trying a little bit too hard.
On board now with Cristiano D'Amata running in 17th place. This is the new driver, one of the new drivers, of course, into the championship this year, moving up from the Indy Lights series last year. Very impressive he was in Indy Lights. Came through to win the championship driving for Tasman Motorsports with 4 victories to his name, including this race at Long Beach. And before Indy Lights, he had plenty of experience in Formula 3000 in Europe. Had a 4th place finish at the street circuit at Pau. Before that, he raced in the British Formula 3 Championship. So good pedigree behind him, and now in the Champ Car Series, but today not having such a great run, down in 17th place. Back with the leaders, Franchitti keeping Montoya within his sights, and this is the battle for the lead with 27 laps to go. Again, these two pulling away a little bit from those behind. Herter not able to maintain the same pace as these two Reynard Hondas ahead. Waiting for Herter to cross the line. There he goes. And Herter is some 3 seconds behind Franchitti. And it's Fernandez, Fittipaldi, Andretti, De Ferran, Papis, Vasser, Greg Moore down in 10th place. And of course, Greg Moore, championship leader coming into this race, finds himself down in 10th position. He'll be disappointed with that, no doubt about it. Mercedes perhaps still not quite getting the drivability that's required here at Long Beach. Now then, back here with Richie Hearn again, and we've got the telemetry of the onboard just to show the G-forces through the corners. This isn't a track where we see the biggest G-forces, of course, but still interesting to watch.
It certainly is, and we're in the later stages of the race now, so the tyres getting a little bit worn, plus the track, there's a lot of rubber on the track, so the track is pretty slippery, and there are just the acceleration loads as they come down the straight, just the bumps causing those lateral G-forces there. Behind Richie Hearn is Mark Blundell through turn 9 at the top end of the track.
Well, we're looking at a fuel hose down in the pits, but hopefully they won't need any more fuel in this race. They should be able to run through to the checkered flag, and it should be a race to the line now for Juan Montoya and Dario Franchitti. Montoya leading then, the advantage just 1.9 seconds last time around. The overhead view as Juan Montoya leads here in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. He has an advantage with just about 2 seconds from Dario Franchitti in a race that has been full of incidents and action. Brian Herter lies in 3rd place, Adrian Fernandez 4th, Christian Fittipaldi is 5th, and Michael Andretti is in 6th place. We lost Tony Kanaan. Tony Kanaan, who'd been on pole position and drove superbly in the early stages of this race. Sadly, Tony lost it on his own, off into the tyre barrier on the outside of turn number 6. A disappointing day for the Brazilian after he'd driven superbly and led these two. All 3 of them have been in a class separate to everybody else this afternoon. And indeed, as they go across the line again, Montoya and Franchitti, with 2.7 seconds between them, have a 5-second gap back to Brian Herter in 3rd position. Jeremy, it's been a fascinating race so far. Franchitti's dropped back a little bit from Montoya over the last few laps. Do you think this is planning, or is it simply he can't keep up?
No, I don't think it's planning. Juan Montoya is going very, very quickly indeed. 62.921 last time around. The lap before, 62.917. 4/1,000ths of a second between those 2 laps. And the gap is now out to 2.7 seconds. Montoya, magnificent. Very fast, very smooth, very consistent.
And earlier in the race we saw Franchitti drop away quite dramatically from behind Tony Kanaan before the first pit stops. It looks as though perhaps his car is not using its tyres in quite the same way, perhaps using the tyres a little too hard, and the car starts to slide around a little bit more. So there you can see Franchitti definitely dropping back.
At the same time, Franchitti just might be careful. He knows his tyres went away in the first stint. Maybe he's been a little bit more careful this time around. Still 23 laps to go.
Montoya continues to lead with Franchitti some 4.4 seconds behind now, and that's a big gap. It's the biggest lead we've seen throughout the course of this race. 64 laps have been completed here. There are 21 laps to go of this revised 1.8-mile street course in Long Beach. It's the 25th running of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, and it's been a tremendous race so far. There's Christian Fittipaldi in picture, still being blocked, he feels, by PJ Jones, who is a lap down. Let's go down to the pits and hear from the man who was leading this race earlier on, Tony Kanaan.
Tony, I know this has to be very, very disappointing. Tell us what happened.
Well, I was trying too hard to pull it away from Juan, and fortunately I put one wheel and the rubber, and the car just slides and was too much, and I hit the wall, the tie barrier. But I mean, my drive-through crew did a great job. Steve and all these guys are great. Unfortunately, you know, I really hate when I made a mistake, and this happened today, but I think we proved to ourselves that we have a very good car and we can do it, so it's not going to happen anymore. It happens just once.
Let's get a quick word with Steve Horn. Steve, you've seen this young man develop his career. Do you have to do cheerleading in this situation, or do you worry at all about what impact this might have?
Well, as I said, Tony, when you get to my age, you can always think of things worse than this. And anybody out there remember Indy 95? That was a little worse than this.
Yes, indeed. All right, Jan Beekes.
Well, Steve Horn, always philosophical, and a tremendous man to have as your team boss, I would think, Jeremy.
Absolutely tremendous. He has been there and done that and has the T-shirt. And there's not much that Steve Horn doesn't know about this sport. He's been at every single level. He started off as a humble mechanic with Team VDS back in the middle 70s, and he's worked his way up to become a team owner last year. Sold out control of the team this year to Jerry Forsyth, but Steve Horn is the man in charge at McDonald's Championship Racing, and he has done a fantastic job. It's a very tight-knit crew. They don't waste any money there. They don't have a huge budget, but they spend it very, very wisely. And Tony Kanaan was reaping the benefits this weekend. One mistake, and as Tony says, I don't make two.
Well, let's hope not. Watching Adrian Fernandez now, 4th place for the Mexican winner last time out in Motegi, and driving a Swift chassis this weekend. They've made the switch to the American-built Swift chassis, which the team was due to run anyway this year, but early season testing, particularly on the ovals, meant that they switched to Reynard. They weren't happy with the performance of the Swift. This weekend, I have to say, they've done a fine job with the Swift, and Fernandez running in a competitive 4th position. That will really help his championship hopes. Montoya, though, is out in front of this race and completely in control.
Absolutely right, and pulling away at a half a second a lap now over Dario Franchitti. Last lap around, the gap was 5.4 seconds. There goes Juan Montoya. Across the line goes Dario Franchitti, 5.9 seconds. Yet again, another half a second a lap.
We're not seeing the opposite lock antics that we saw earlier in this race, and indeed in qualifying from Montoya. Amazing car control, but now he has smoothed things out a little bit. Not quite so exciting, just trying to keep it all under control. Of course, he's in a great team. They're supporting him, they're helping him, they're giving him all the help and assistance he needs, and it's looking good. Perhaps it's a first win coming up for Juan Montoya. Across the line he goes. That was a 1:03.2. He was in the 1:02s just a lap or so ago, but still pulling away, and Franchitti crosses the line 7.6 seconds behind him. 3rd place, Brian Herter, however, is another 9 seconds behind Franchitti. So Franchitti's not in trouble of losing that 2nd place, but I really don't think he's going to be able to chase Montoya.
That's right, and once again, 1.5 second per lap, and look at Juan Montoya there, pretty smooth through those corners, and he's really driving a masterful race. But here's his battle behind. That was Michael Andretti ahead of Gilles de Ferran. There we're looking at Gilles de Ferran with Alvaline car on Goodyear tyres, of course. All these other cars are on Firestones. That was Michael Andretti, Gilles de Ferran. Behind Gilles de Ferran is Max Papis. Behind Max Papis is Jimmy Bassett. These 4 cars been absolutely nose to tail for lap after lap after lap, and Greg Moore also hanging on the back of that group, the championship leader, as you said earlier on, in 10th position.
6th place for Michael Andretti then. No repetition of problems in the pit lane for him so far, but he just hasn't had a car that's been truly competitive this weekend. They've struggled a little bit in qualifying to make the car work, and interestingly found themselves beaten by a customer Swift with Adrian Fernandez with his Swift chassis actually going faster than the Swift of the Newman Haas team. Oh, de Ferran right under the rear wing of Michael Andretti. Tremendous pictures from the onboard camera, just situated behind the right front fin of de Ferran's car. But tremendous pictures indeed as he tries to get a little bit closer to Michael. Michael just locking a wheel slightly into turn number 1. Again, we're through this new section which takes them past the aquarium on the left. Just caught a glimpse of the building as they go through, and twisty turny section here. There's not much opportunity to overtake, although we did see Franchitti overtake Herter at this part of the track. And in fact, this is where Tony Kanaan went off earlier on in the race. So there are potential overtaking spots if you're brave, if you're committed. We've seen 1 or 2 of them, but at the moment everybody seems to be just holding station with 13 laps to go in this race.
And Juan Montoya, just a torrid pace at the front of the field. Yet again, another half a second he adds to his lead over Dario Franchitti. It's now 8.8 seconds and just 13 laps to go, and Montoya looking very good indeed. Herter also is losing ground to Dario Franchitti. Herter in 3rd place is now exactly 9 seconds behind Franchitti.
Well, Gilles de Ferran continues his chase of Michael Andretti, and still keeping it very, very close behind the Newman Haas Swift. De Ferran, who's had a number of incidents over the years here at Long Beach. He's led it on several occasions. He had a hose detached from the turbo with just 4 laps to go here in 1996 when he was winning, and then in 1997 he was also going extremely well here at Long Beach, and unfortunately put it in the wall, but it looked as though he had it all wrapped up. Last year he also led much of the race, only to suffer transmission problems. We haven't seen de Ferran quite on that sort of pace this weekend, but nonetheless you can see he's very fired up, looking for a chance to get past Andretti.
I think the Walker Racing crew just felt they'd gone a little bit too conservative in choosing that tyre with Goodyear. They do most of the testing, does Walker Racing, for Goodyear, along with Marlboro Team Penske, of course, particularly since... Oh, and there is a mistake by Michael Andretti, and Gilles de Ferran noted alongside, but the Ford horsepower there seems to be a little bit better than the Honda. That's interesting.
Yes, well, maybe it was traction as well, because de Ferran was on the dirty inside. He might have got a little bit more wheel spin than Michael Andretti. Oh, and a little bit of lock-up. Careful, boys. They just make it into turn one safely. Max Papis watching this from a great position right behind them, and de Ferran so close to having a chance to go past. Wonderful on-board pictures again. Let's just stay with this a moment. Just watch as he continues this chase of Michael Andretti. Clambering over the curbs a little bit there, Andretti, as he tries to keep de Ferran behind him. The battle for sixth place this is, remember. And again, you get a chance to see all the little bits of rubber at the side of the road up the backstretch there. The marbles, as they're called, just offline. And if you do move offline, which is really what de Ferran had to do then when they came up to the hairpin, he got on the inside, but the track's so dirty on the inside, I think he just lost any potential of out-dragging Michael Andretti. And again, they come out of the hairpin. The back end of Andretti's car just flicks a little bit sideways.
Feels okay, 11 laps.
They're all under control. Now, fuel okay. That was Ed Nathman talking to Michael Andretti. And I think everybody now is going to be okay for fuel with some 11 laps to go. And in fact, they're being told that they can turn the wick up a little bit, use a little bit of a richer fuel mixture. Greg Moore's just been told, go for the overtake button if you get a chance.
And he's just got past. You can see him, no sign of Jimmy Vasser in that picture. And Greg Moore now onto the tail of Max Papis. He got past Jimmy Vasser last time around, and Vasser seems to have dropped back. That, of course, is Juan Montoya's teammate, is Jimmy Vasser, and back now in 10th place and falling well back from this battle.
Strange that. Vasser, the winner here 3 years ago, 1996. And amazingly, Ganassi have won the last 3 races. If Montoya continues his charge up front, it'll be 4 times winner here in Long Beach in the last 4 years, and then they've always got on to win the championship as well. Ganassi's record here at Long Beach really quite tremendous, and they're looking to add to that even further today, courtesy of Juan Montoya. So just 10 laps to go now, and Montoya's advantage over Dario Franchitti, 9.9 seconds. Brian Herter then in third place, a lonely third. But Adrian Fernandez still in fourth. Then Christian Fittipaldi fifth, and then this gaggle of cars with Michael Andretti in sixth, ahead of Gilles de Ferran, Max Papis and Greg Moore. This is the opportunity perhaps for people to start making a move. If they're going to do it, it's going to have to be soon. The track has remained good and consistent throughout the race, but if they do go offline, it could be tricky.
Other things remaining equal, Ben, I don't see any way that anybody's going to catch Montoya, but Gilles de Ferran hasn't given up, certainly, on trying to get past Michael Andretti. A great dice between these two great drivers, and Michael Andretti using every inch of the road to keep Gilles de Ferran behind him.
A little bit wider entry into the hairpin this year, although the corner itself is just as tight as it's always been. We've always seen plenty of incidents there. And so far in this race, it's been reasonably clean through that section. We've seen 1 or 2 stopped up there, but generally, we haven't seen the car park that we've seen in some previous races at Long Beach. And still, de Ferran can't get past. Looks to me as though de Ferran might be running a little bit more wing, perhaps. He does struggle to get close enough to Andretti at the end of that start-finish straight. And that's really the main opportunity to overtake. If you can really get alongside there, perhaps de Ferran's going to have to try something a little bit brave, a little bit committed if he wants to take 6th place. He's got to decide whether that's worthwhile and potentially lose some points if it all goes wrong. Greg Moore, meanwhile, championship leader, down there in 10th place at the 9th place at the moment. Oh, and Blundell, that is, Mark Blundell has gone out. He's hit the tyres. Mark Blundell, surely that's going to be a full course yellow. Blundell was a lap down anyway, remember, not having a good afternoon, running in around 15th position in fact, and now it's the end of it.
It's actually Cristiano D'Amato who was running. He was right behind the two Pac West cars. Blundell, in actual fact, had passed Gugelmin, and D'Amato was right behind those two. He was running in 70.
Well, D'Amato sadly out of this race. In the tyre barrier, Cristiano D'Amato then. We thought it was Mark Blundell for a moment, the orange from the banners and stuff, making the car look very much like the Pac West car, but it is Cristiano D'Amato. Let's take a look at what happened. This is the onboard camera with Cristiano D'Amato. It's the same corner that Tony Kanaan lost it earlier, and he just lost it, just went in a little bit too quick. And boy, when they go, do they go quickly. There he is in the back of the picture, just coming through. There was nothing he could do about that. Straight out into the tyre barrier.
Exactly the same as his good buddy Tony Kanaan. These two both lived down in the Miami area. For a while, actually, lived in the same apartment building, but Tony Kanaan now moved up the road a little bit to Aventura, Florida, and there is Cristiano D'Amato. Exactly the same accident, exactly the same tyre wall, and exactly the same result out of the race.
So that's the end of his day. Meanwhile, Mark Blundell still running in 15th position. These two weren't too far apart before that accident. Of course, Juan Montoya now gets a little bit of a break, and it means that, of course, everybody is certainly okay on fuel now. They'll be going for it in the climax to this race. We've had 78 laps, just 7 to go.
You saw that rubber bouncing off the pace car there.
That's amazing, isn't it? Look at the bits of rubber, and they're big bits of rubber too, aren't they? Now, this could be interesting. If you see those bits of rubber around, surely as they go on the restart, tyres have cooled down a bit, more rubber all over the place. The potential for making a mistake is very clear indeed. And now it's restart time, and Juan Montoya puts his foot down, coming up to the turn number 9 at the end of the back stretch. Franchitti trying to stay with him. Now has Franchitti got an answer for Juan Montoya. Montoya has been lapping rapidly in the last few laps of this race, but Franchitti, can he find some answer? They've both pulled away a little bit from Brian Herter, so at least Franchitti doesn't have to watch his mirrors too closely as he goes into the final stages. Just 4 laps to go here in Long Beach, and Franchitti chasing after Juan Montoya down into turn 1, a potential overtaking spot. Franchitti doesn't even think about it. He needs to pull away from third place man Brian Herter, and he wants the points here today. If he can't win, then perhaps he'll settle for second. It's the championship that matters to him, but Montoya could well be a championship protagonist if he continues the sort of form we're seeing here today. And we saw at Motegi, look at Montoya, he's sideways everywhere, look at him.
Yes, he is, Ben, and we talked about it a little earlier on, and Barry Green confirmed it. Dario Franchitti was being cautious in the earlier part of this stint. He did not want to burn up his tyres. Montoya was running a lot faster, pulled away a lot. Has he overused those tyres? We will see in the next couple of laps.
Yes, absolutely. Whether Dario Franchitti has looked after the tyres a little better, and now with an opportunity to chase him, perhaps he can find a way past. But Montoya, look at that, he's pulled away a little bit coming out of the hairpin, and the gap is up to just over a second between the, or just under a second as they cross the line and head down to turn 1. 3 laps to go now, just under 3 laps, and Montoya leading by just under a second from Dario Franchitti, and working on his reflexes again. Look at him, he charges all the time. An aggressive racer, there's no doubt about that. Franchitti sideways as well, and the wall's ready to catch you if you just get it a little bit wrong.
Inch perfect, Juan Montoya. Look how he's pulled away just that little bit from Dario Franchitti. He is driving absolutely magnificently. 1 minute 5.18 last time around. You see, it shows that it takes a couple of laps to get these tyres really up to temperature, and that's why Montoya was sliding around a lot on the last lap around. It looks like he's in very, very good shape indeed. He's driving an absolutely brilliant race.
Yeah, what a performance we're seeing. Last week in Motegi, he had a real shot at victory. He was battling with Adrian Fernandez, and unfortunately the team miscalculated on fuel, and he ran out of fuel towards the end of the race when he had a real shot at victory. He ran brilliantly there. Somebody came into the pits just then, one of the players' cars, I noticed at the back of the picture.
It's Patrick Carponcha. He was a lap down in 13th place.
Right. Also
a little bit down the order, Michael Andretti has been passed by Gilles de Ferran. That was a battle for 6th place.
So de Ferran back up to 6th. He had it earlier, was passed by Andretti on one of the restarts, and now he's got his revenge for that pass. But up front, with under 2 laps to go now, it looks as though Juan Montoya from Colombia is heading for his first win in Champ Car racing, and it would be the 4th straight win for the Ganassi team here at Long Beach. What an incredible record, and he really has done the business behind the wheel. Superb drive. Hearing from Chip Ganassi there. Just take it easy, Juan. Don't do anything silly. You've opened up an advantage now already over Dario Franchitti, and he does not need to do anything dramatic. He will see the white flag as he comes out of the hairpin and accelerates down towards the start-finish line. The white flag waves, and Juan Montoya starts his last lap.
Absolutely, there he goes. We saw the slower car of Michel Jourdain pulled off to the side of the road next to the hairpin. That's a shame. That was one championship point that Jourdain was looking at. No more. It is PJ Jones that should inherit that position. But here is Juan Montoya, just giving a little bit extra berth to those concrete walls, through that fountain section here, through turn 4, up to this tricky off-camber corner there in turn 5. Inch perfect again, not taking any chances. That's the corner that caught out Tony Kanaan and Cristiano D'Amata. Not so for Juan Montoya. Onto the back straight seaside way, just over 1 mile to go.
Juan Montoya is heading for victory in Long Beach. His first season of Champ Car racing. Only his third race in the championship. He's come into this championship and he has been so impressive. He's got 1 corner to go. The man who has replaced Alex Zanardi in the Ganassi team has picked up where Zanardi left off. He slides it out of the hairpin. Juan Montoya wins his first race in the United States. Brilliant performance today from the 23-year-old Colombian, and what a job from the team. Ganassi, just listen to that radio. Fantastic. The cheers, the emotion from Montoya. He's so controlled normally. Now it's a chance.
You come in the back door.
And Franchitti coming along to congratulate him after a well-driven race from these two. Franchitti beaten today, but he holds second place, and very important points, some 15 points for Dario Franchitti. So an important race for him today. Herta a strong third, Adrian Fernandez fourth, Christian Fittipaldi fifth, then Gilles de Ferran sixth. From Michael Andretti, Greg Moore, Max Papis, Jimmy Vasser, Richie Hearn and PJ Jones. Well, what celebration for Juan Montoya. And Jeremy, I mean, we've seen young drivers come onto the scene and be impressive, but how would you rate this young man, having seen what you've seen so far?
Yeah, mighty impressive. I saw him in his Barber Saab days, as it was then 5 years ago when he raced over here, and you could see then just an immense amount of confidence and a really happy-go-lucky character. His character hasn't changed, his driving has matured. And what's interesting to me, I'm looking out the window here out of our booth, and a tremendous reception he got from this huge crowd here in Long Beach. They are very impressed. I am super impressed. What a great drive by Juan Montoya. This is going to be the first of very many big-time victories for this young man.
Well, he comes into pit lane, into winner's circle, the first time that Montoya's ever been into winner's circle in the Champ Cars, and well, in just his third race, it's just remarkable.
No donuts, we see.
No.
Alex Zanardi, of course, was renowned for his victory donuts. Juan Montoya, he's just going to let himself speak for himself. He gets back into the victory circle there, and the crew unbuckles his helmet, takes the radio out, and the drinks bottle is unplugged, and Montoya will be a happy man when he emerges from the cockpit of this number 4 Target Reynard Honda, and fast on tires, yet another win. That's 21 in a row.
Interestingly, it's the first time a rookie has won in his first season since Alex Zanardi did the very same thing in 1996. In that time, of course, the Ganassi team was just hitting great form, with Jimmy Vasser winning the championship. But Montoya, there he is. Get used to this young man. Look at him closely. Let's see what he looks like, because we're going to be seeing an awful lot more of him this year. Gets a big hug from Chip Ganassi, and that's just tremendous.
And Papa there as well, Papa Montoya. And a great drive by this young Colombian man.
Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to have a quick word with Juan Montoya. Gary Gerald is down there, ready and waiting. And meanwhile, coming in hopefully will be Dario Franchitti. Second place finish here today, and third place for Brian Herta, with Adrian Fernandez also scoring good points with his fourth place finish.
It's a very hot day here in Southern California, hot sun beating down, but Juan Montoya, he looks pretty cool, doesn't he? Look at him clambering out of the car, a little bit of sweat there, but boy, he's been through the ringer out there this afternoon. The track is bumpy, there's a lot of G-forces, a lot of acceleration and deceleration. Great drive.
Brilliant stuff, and it certainly is going to close things up in the championship. I think Greg Moore is still going to be our championship leader, but his margin being reduced to around 6 points over Adrian Fernandez. Fernandez certainly putting in a tremendous job today. And in fact, Michael Andretti very close. Let's hear from Montoya.
Champ car race. Did you at any point think that you might be able to make the transition so quickly that you could become a winner in just your third race?
Yeah, I think we've done a quite good job. Japan was very close to win, but we ran out of fuel. And here we just had it absolutely right. The car worked beautiful all the race. We did a mistake in qualifying, and it wasn't that bad after all. We could go by everyone, and I think just thanks to all the guys and thanks everyone in Colombia that followed me, my girlfriend, everyone.
Tell me what happened now when you're chasing Tony Kanaan and suddenly he had the problem. Do you think you pressured him into a mistake?
But I was pushing him quite hard. We're running quite lean in field, so we're looking very good. And I would just start pushing, trying to show him the nose, and he started making a couple of mistakes. His car started to slide, and whoa! It was funny because I went to turn and whoa, he just kept going straight. Thank you.
4 straight wins for Ganassi and Target Racing. Congratulations. Great drive.
Thank you very much.
Let's take a look at the points table now. Greg Moore leading on 39 points. Adrian Fernandez there on 33 points, the same as Gilles de Ferran. So look how close the championship is. Michael Andretti's there. Dario Franchitti's only 9 points off the championship lead. And of course, we've got a new winner today, Juan Montoya. He only had 3 points coming into this race. Now he's got 23 points. So he also will challenge as we go through this season. Jimmy Vasser down in 8th place on 16 points, and Brian Herter moving up to 9th on his 3rd place finish here today. Let's take a little look at some of the highlights of today's race in Long Beach.
The man, you are the man.
I hope you enjoyed our coverage here today from Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com.